This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, thank you. People of color, vets, and if you're a resident in town or in the surrounding contiguous communities, then that's also a consideration. So that's where we are with the cannabis applications themselves. Again, hope to be able to get something to the council of recommendation by the 15th so that we can get these applications into the state. I do want to share with you just briefly, if I may. Oh, I probably can't share my screen, Councilwoman, right? You're the host. I want
screen sharing permission. One moment.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to share the map that we've recently received. I don't know if it's on the website yet, but we did ask our planning director to give us a map that showed us where the buffer lines were from 100 feet to 200 feet and 500 feet radius from all schools in town. As some of you may know, that was a discussion that the council had voted to have the 100-foot buffer for now. So that's where we are. But I wanted to share this with you all just to make sure that we, okay, here it is. We're all on the same page. I think this is the one. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
So if you look at the legend on my bottom left-hand side, down all the way at the bottom, you'll see where it says 100, 200, and 500 square foot radius. And this is for schools, public and private. So the blue is what's indicated here. This is where our schools are. In some cases, if you'll notice in the, I think this is Liberty. I don't have my glasses on. I apologize. But, if we were, yeah, that's Kelly Drive. So if we were to say, recommend, a 200-foot or a 500-foot radius, we wouldn't even be within our borders anymore. We'd be in Livingston at that point. We have asked, and we can make this a little larger. I think I'm going to ask the planner to just section this off and just to increase it because it's hard to read and identify what streets are here. That's something that I'll have to ask them to do. We did ask them also to provide information in the same regard with respect to the houses of worship. Unfortunately, because we have not yet done our contracts, our planning department, our consulting planning firm functions within certain parameters, and this is outside of their parameters. So we will have to go ahead and get that contract on the council agenda so that we can continue the work with them. But if you can see here, and this is the biggest concern that we've on the task force have had, and the administration, I will say, is that there isn't a lot of areas for dispensaries, or especially not for cultivators, because our I zones are so very small. There's very little place, and you'll see here in the I zones where way down here at the bottom, this is where we are, and there really is no space for that industry. And even if there was, there are no schools in this area, which is why we were comfortable releasing their applications for cultivation when we did, even without the buffers, because there really weren't any schools in this area. It is where we are. So the applications that we will be reviewing and are currently reviewing are going to be susceptible to the 100-foot buffer, because that's what we have in our ordinance at this time. So it would be only fair to those who apply that we have that buffer of 100 feet. If that should change sometime down the road, and I will share, in looking at the lack of inventory now, a conversation that we've kind of kicked around would be to say, if we increase the buffer around schools and houses of worship to 200, would we then be able to then find a compromise or a middle ground somewhere where we will allow the cannabis dispensaries in office buildings? Because while testing labs are permitted and obviously medical facilities are permitted in office buildings, cannabis is not a permitted use. So I think that if we're able to, and we all know how many office buildings we have that have vacant spaces in them, that have parking, that are not right next to schools, I think that that would be a happy medium. Certainly a conversation still to be had with the entire task force. Again, it's just something that I've been kicking around with the chief, the administration, and hopefully we'll be able to have that conversation with the council after, if and after the task force is also in agreement with that recommendation. So right now, all of the applications that we have, that timeframe has closed now. We have 4 licenses that we can award. One thing that I have noticed, what's coming in are conditional applications, which means that those applicants have already applied to the state. And they're not an annual application. They have to apply again to be renewed, but they can only be renewed if the municipality supports that renewal. But I think it's a very clever way of trying to be, to get to the finish line with the state. You do it conditionally, and then you hope that the municipalities that you apply to are going to be supportive of that. And the way the state handles that is that if a conditional application comes to them, they'll review it, and they will reach out to the municipality, advise them of the application, and ask first if we've received any information on that, and they provide us 28 days to respond. If we don't respond, they will assume that we are okay with that conditional application. So it is in our best interest to make sure that we are on top of that type of communication if and when we get it. And I'm sure we will, because I've seen some already come through of the applications that we've received. The other thing I also was going to share with everyone was what the council approved during the last town council meeting, which is the licensing fees. So the state has both application fees and licensing fees. So to be fair to to support the micro businesses, which is our focus, we did keep to what the state has recommended. Yes. So this is where we are. For cannabis cultivators, it's $1,000 for the qualified micro businesses. For your traditional applicants, it's $5,000 for cannabis, and for up to 10,000 square feet. Anything after 10,000 square feet is $1 per square foot. Same applies to the cannabis manufacturers, $1,000 for micro businesses, $2,000 for each square foot of that space that is proposed as the manufacturing location. Distributors, it's the same concept, $1,000 for micro businesses. All of our licenses for micro businesses, that fee is $1,000. And then for traditional, it's $1,000 plus the square feet of retail and storage that's included in that proposed retail location. So that is basically where we are. Now, the other questions that we have received through the task force is, are there going to be additional rounds? That's a wait and see at this time after we review all the applications. And if there are some that we can recommend or want to recommend to the council, and if the council approves, because the council has the final approval of granting the resolution to support that license, then that goes to the state. Now that doesn't give them a license, because we have to, if the state doesn't give them a license, we can give them 15 resolutions and it won't make a difference, right? So the resolution is just supporting their application, letting the state know that that's where we want, that's who we want in our municipality, and hopeful that those that we select, the CRC considers given a license to. So if we, let's say, just for example's sake, again, I have not been through half of all of them, but we're working our way through them. Let's say out of the 10 we have, we recommend 2 licenses and 2 micro businesses. and the council likes one license and maybe one micro business, then we have another round. We'll consider another round of applications to continue to receive them. The one that does not have a limit on when they're received are micro businesses. Those will be receiving on an ongoing basis, just the way the state does. I think that's all I have to present for you this evening. I don't know if there was any questions, Chairman, that you want, Councilwoman, you let me know. I'll stop sharing.
I want to say that was excellent, Madam Councilwoman. Excellent review of the process, which is a complicated one. Is there any unreadiness, any questions from the committee? And I'm limited to the committee right now, because any other questions they can reach Councilwoman Brown directly.
No questions from me.
Chairman, I have a quick question.
Sure.
So through you. So what surrounding towns have approved this other than West Orange?
Boy, I have to go back to my list. I don't have it off the top of my head, but I know that medicinal is included in Maplewood. Maplewood, Montclair has a medicinal that is going to be converted to retail. That's the plan. Now, it's a plan, doesn't mean that it's going to happen, because again, the state has to approve that.
Okay.
And I don't yet know the process of what it is that they're looking for. I would imagine support from the municipality. I would imagine they're looking at how their product is moved, how inventory is maintained. But those are the two towns. And I know that Orange was still in litigation. I don't know if that litigation is done, but that was from the last round, from 2019. I'm not sure where they are in that litigation. I think we were, go ahead, Abdur, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
I'm so sorry.
All good, Chairman. To Commissioner Ron Charles, Bloomfield, nearby community, they're offering 6 retail licenses only.
Okay.
Just want to throw that out. So they're pretty close to us, distance wise.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, I do have a list I can forward to you. I also know that of most of the municipalities in Essex County that opted out are now starting to, and correct me if I'm wrong, Commissioner Yassin, was Bloomfield one of those that kind of did an about face to allow for the retail, or had they opted in?
I believe they opted in from the very beginning. As far as Essex County goes, I'm not sure on the number, but I believe Belleville is on that list in terms of opting in, Irvington as well. And, you mentioned Maplewood and
Montclair.
From medicinal to Bellevue.
Your mic is very low. It just went very low.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
That's better.
You mentioned Maplewood and Montclair. They're converting their medicinal to adult use. And, again, Bloomfield and us.
Yeah, I'll get you the, I just don't know where it is right now, that list that I shared.
That's quite all right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
The only question that I would have is if perhaps, since Chairman Wayman spoke to the economic benefit, do we have any information as to how we can just briefly give an overview or provide an update on how even medicinal cannabis has impacted Montclair and or Maplewood? Do you have any information that we can share?
I don't, but I will certainly reach out or ask Mr. Gross to reach out to the neighboring business administrators to see what the impact was in increasing their revenue. And that's a really great question, Councilwoman. Thank you. Absolutely, we'll do that, because I think it's important. I know that there's a lot of obviously taboo around cannabis, and actually one of the focuses for us is, in addition to making sure that, it fits our community, it's representative, that there are micro licenses. obviously we have the floor that we want to give out as well, but it is a revenue generator. Councilwoman, you sat in on well, you've watched a lot of budget hearings as you prepared to make your run. But to be able to even reduce 1 point of a tax rate increase, you have to come up with, at the very minimum, $600,000 to cut from the budget. That is a hefty chunk of change. If we can if we can equalize that, right, in cannabis revenue, that would be such a great help for us, because in looking at all of the, in the work that you're all doing with the economic development, there are a lot of projects coming online, and that's very exciting. Everybody usually complains in town, and I was one of them. We don't have this, we don't have that, we have to go somewhere else. But there is a lot of development that is coming. And so that's going to mean increases in services, which is obviously going to increase our budget. And as I shared during the council meeting the last week, when we're looking at our budget, it's not just how the municipality expends their budget. And Commissioner Charles can tell you, since he, as a former board member, former board president, that budgeting is quite tasking. And our greatest percentage of revenue goes to our school districts, as they should, because it's the most important investment that we can all make wherever we live, right? It's the education of our children. So while some people do renege on the fact that they don't have children in the school district anymore and their taxes shouldn't be so high, but we do benefit from the value of our communities and our properties being high, because we have a great school district. So, it certainly does give us a little bit of a buffer to be, when we look at the revenue, to be able to say, well, we can cut, here because we have this income. Mm-hmm. So from the revenue perspective, absolutely a focus. And from the social justice and equity, making sure that we have representation of people of color, of women, of veterans in the industry, which, to be perfectly honest with everyone, I look at this opportunity for us to be a model for best practices when we're focused on social justice and equity in what we do here on this commission, but also, within the municipality. So that's very important too. I would love to be able to boast the best practice model for that, and especially if they're residents of town.
And then, Councilwoman, if I may, just understanding some of the questions that we've received from the public. I don't know that this has been done, but perhaps if we could create some type of projection. For instance, if we have a business and we allow that business to operate, and whatever their projections, we can make up random numbers and we can say, if this business does X, this is what it would generate for the municipality. And I think if people had an opportunity to visualize that opportunity and really see what those numbers look like, it might change their perspective and hopefully move them away from some of their concerns about how the business might run, but really understand the financial impact that this opportunity is going to have for West Orange.
Absolutely. We have had those back of the napkin type of conversations, but nothing really to share with the public. But I will ask John Gross, as I'm sure he's already looked into it, to put something together for us to share. And as we're looking through the applications, that's also something that is in the applications, what the anticipated revenue is. Obviously, all of those are projections, right, from their business plan. It's not a guarantee, but it's the business plan that they anticipate will generate that revenue.
So I'm sorry for interrupting.
No, go ahead, please.
Councilman Brown. Let me just to give you some insight, Councilwoman Williams. We're allowed to tax 2.5% of those revenues, all right, to those businesses. So I'm not one coming from a financial background and coming from the Treasurer's office. I'm not one to give false projections based off of numbers of what businesses could do or possibly do. From a standpoint of looking at the businesses that we accept, are the ones that we feel are strong and the ones that are going to survive. Most of those businesses do not come online. It's going to take them, even if we accepted them, got their application, and they went online. First of all, things have to be cultivated. So until they get a cultivated license and then it being tested, it can't even be sold. So any revenues, I want people to understand as it relates to cannabis, and which is why I didn't want to get too inundated with that here, is because even though those revenues, it's great, that money you're not going to see. It's not a savior. You won't see that money for 2.5 years, more than likely, because by the time they actually get up and running and operating, and the reason that these applications were done in the way that they were from the state was because cultivation for recreational use had to come online. Cultivation centers at a clip of about 10 million easy for setup. It's going to take them almost like a year to even get a yield in order to even sell it to a dispensary. So just to give you an idea, we can probably get some estimated numbers. I can probably have Councilwoman, Brown work with Ron Gross to give some estimated numbers. And I understand your point. The general public wants to have an idea of what that looks like from a revenue stream. However, but we would be giving false information or false narrative if we are not really precise on how that works. So I want the general public to understand that those who don't understand the cannabis business, when we issue those licenses, you're talking about those revenues hitting the town for about in year 2.
That's extremely helpful.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm glad that you did add that, because I mean, that is the truth. And it's like any other business that starts, right? You start in the red for a couple of years. You won't come out of that space for some time because you've got so much capital. And by capital, I mean, now as I'm looking at these applications, I knew that anyone that is ready to invest in this business is not going to subject themselves to risk their license because it's their life. When we're talking about one of the applications I saw that has site control, their deposit was $50,000, their security deposit. And they've been paying this lease for well over a year because they leased this place in hopes of having an opportunity, right? That's a requirement. You have to put out so much capital in advance of even having the application so that you can demonstrate to the state that, yes, you're serious about this, you're capable and able to sustain it. So it's the whole notion that, that we're going to give cannabis to kids or make it more accessible to kids, to me, it is outrageous, because these industries are not going to risk their licenses and their livelihood to sell product that is not intended, that it's not for the intended use, right? And if you walk into, and I know I have to set up a walkthrough, a visit. I know that the chief tried to set it up for the council at one time. He knows a former chief of police who does the security for a retail, medicinal in Secaucus, just so that you can understand just how tight of a ship this operation is. It's just, you can't, there's so many different checkpoints. You can't just walk in there. I mean, the one in Maplewood, looking at their website, because I have looked at, different websites just to get informed as to what type of products are being sold. That was a question that we received at the planning board. But a pre-rolled cannabis cigarette is like 3 of them are $75. It's $25 for a joint. Kids aren't paying that. Who's going to pay for that is going to be people that can afford that, right? So I think that the worry about making it so accessible to kids, like I think someone mentioned during the last council meeting, you could have anybody walk into the liquor store and buy it for an underage. It's a little different, in this case, I would imagine. But that is a good suggestion to focus on that and share that with the community councilwoman. Appreciate it. I'm going to just do one last, can I do one last screen share? Because I did find a document that had the townships listed. And that is right here. It was on one of our agendas. I knew that I had it somewhere and I couldn't find it. Commissioner Charles, are you able to see this? Or do I need to?
I can, thank you.
Okay, so the municipalities that opted out in Essex County, it is Caldwell, Cedar Grove, East Orange, Fairfield, Irvington, Montclair. Now they opted out of retail, but they are converting their medicinal to retail.
Okay.
Nutley, Orange, again, same situation, approved medicinal, and they're still battling for theirs. Roseland, South Orange, Verona, and West Caldwell. Those municipalities that opted in: Belleville, Bloomfield, Essex Fells, Glen Ridge, Livingston, Milburn, Newark, North Caldwell, and of course, West Orange. And statewide, over 70% of municipalities have banned all types of cannabis businesses.
Thank you for this, actually.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions for Councilwoman Brown?
Thank you for the opportunity to let me share. I'm excited
Thank
to
you.
hear
No problem. And I want to acknowledge Councilwoman Susan McCartney, who's joined the call. So welcome, Councilwoman.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Hello, everyone.
Hey. Councilwoman Williams, where are we on the agenda?
Next on the agenda, we're at downtown redevelopment. So we want to talk about MBA. We want to talk about the resolution that was approved by the council at the last council meeting, identifying a new developer downtown. And we'll let you give that intro.
No. I would let somebody on council. Why don't I let someone on council? Why don't you, Councilwoman Williams, since you're part of Economic Development Council, why don't you do a recap in which the council instituted, and then I'll briefly talk about everything since it's public now, and then we can go into some detail as to what our next agenda is as it pertains to that. But I'll let you recap what took place last week, and then I'll let Councilwoman Brown and Councilwoman McCartney chime in based off of you guys' meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So as I indicated at our last council meeting on last Tuesday evening, we voted and passed a resolution unanimously to designate MBS Group as the conditional redeveloper for Film Services Overlay District of the Downtown Redevelopment Plan. PRISM had been rescinded as the downtown redeveloper. Unfortunately, once that designation was rescinded, we immediately went into litigation. So unfortunately, there was limited information that we could share to the public. But I think it has been very well documented on the rationale for rescinding that designation. And we were excited about moving forward with new opportunities. And as we continue to say, to reimagine our downtown in West Orange. We as residents go to many of our neighboring towns. And this is so significant because we have right here on Main Street. If you are not aware, West Orange is one of the only Main Street towns that has a historical museum on its Main Street. And of course, with Edison being the father of the film industry, we have the Black Mariah. It's very timely and suitable for our West Orange community to move forward with this type of project. There's a lot of federal and state funding creating and pushing these opportunities. And so we're just very excited right now to see what tomorrow is going to bring. This is going to be transformational for our community and take us to the downtown that will, quite frankly, be revered by all of our neighboring communities. This opportunity has the potential to bring revenue, employment, everything that is economic development, this opportunity will indeed provide.
Anything to add, Councilman Brown?
I will. Thank you. And Councilwoman Williams, you said that perfectly. Summed it up succinctly and I do want to start off by saying first and foremost that I am happy to see that the council, the administration did come together on this to say, you know, we're going to go ahead and give ourselves the courage, because it took a lot of courage to be able to move forward in this space. This is the first and only time that West Orange has defaulted a redeveloper. And to Mayor Parisi's point, we are making 29%, generating 29% above what was estimated as far as revenue is concerned. It's over $1.2 million, much more than the battery factory was making eons ago. And for those who were in town when the battery factory was still standing, I know most of us were, it was a tremendous eyesore. And there were some businesses in there, but unfortunately it was not generating the revenue to cover their taxes. So, you know, while Prism came in and was the only one who wanted to step in and undertake that massive project, because it was a massive project, they held their heels for far too long to move on to phase 2. They had all of the approvals that they needed, but didn't get there for whatever reason. So we finally were able to do that. We were unfortunately immediately taken to court on that. And it was the judge's decision to try and have a mediation or several mediation sessions to be able to come to a speedy resolution, because he knew that it would be a lengthy and costly trial if we were to go through one. It would just, you know, we would miss so many opportunities to be able to reimagine. So I am happy that we were able to do that. The judge was incredibly supportive of both sides, because his job was to mediate a settlement for a favorable conclusion. And so not everyone walked away from the table happy, because if you do, then you did something wrong. Everyone, you know, had to compromise somewhere. And I will say that the last day we were in court, and Council President McCartney can vouch for that, the opposing party came in and they said they were not giving any additional monies for the trust because we needed some environmental cleanups, and it wasn't our responsibility. So we certainly wanted to make sure that they were going to be held responsible for that. So we had a demand in mind, and they came in with zero. We were at 800. They came back with a 500, and that's where we settled. And that's in addition to the $364,000 that we were able to negotiate as well to be kept in a trust for their remediation. And in addition to the I think it was 1.6 million that we, off the top of my head, I think it's 1.6 million that we also have in trust for the other parcels remediation. So the township, Richard Trank did an incredible job. We had an assistant counsel as well. But it was a tough process, but certainly one that's it's going to change the trajectory of West Orange. We've got so much interest in town now. So I'm looking forward to being able to continue to be part of that process. And I'll stop there if Council President would like to chime in.
Thank you again. And really, all I really have to say is that we were so excited. And I prefaced the council meeting by saying we never add resolutions on at a last minute. But when I looked at the email from the legal department, it came in at 4:57 on Monday evening, and our council meeting was the next day. But I felt that this was so exciting that we asked the mayor to come in and give his presentation and the whole narrative and the backstory of bringing us to this point. There is quite a bit of remediation work that needed to get done. As Councilwoman Matu Brown just mentioned, that was settled only a few days before that. The amounts, $951,000 in that trust, the settlement agreement that happened on Thursday, just the week before the council meeting, and just having the conditional redeveloper established just lets us proceed with these negotiations to do this. So we were all so excited to be at this point and continue to see where we're going with this, because I love the fact, you know, we do have a Thomas Edison National Historic Park right on our main street. We have the very successful Edison Lofts. It was listed as the successful non-waterfront redevelopment in town. And as Councilwoman also said, that it far exceeded the expectations of revenues that were expected there. And we're just looking forward, because when you think of 6 to 8 sound stages and all the ancillary jobs and opportunities that that would provide, it's very exciting. And it's adjacent to the Black Maria. The Black Maria is right there on our main street. It sits right there. The first production studio invented by Thomas Edison is sitting right there on our main street. It just lends itself to this project. So we're very excited to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. So I just, only thing I would like to add, I'd like to thank the 2 other council members, Councilwoman Michelle Castellino and Councilman Bill Rutherford, and of course, you guys who are here today. You know, you can't do anything without compromise and having counsel. And a lot of you supported moving on something that was not necessarily comfortable, and following the vision of also Mayor Parisi. And so in having conversations with the mayor and us having a plan on what it was that we wanted to see, I want to thank him also for believing in me and the idea of trying to get this done. And so while it isn't completely done, we've taken a giant step moving forward and seeing something that basically could transform the whole entire township. And so I want to thank you all, and I will thank you all individually again, and have conversation with you all personally, but I want to thank you collectively as a job well done. We always know that we don't always get along, but you guys did a tremendous job of coming together to see what's best for the town. And
So
I
Jay,
appreciate that.
I was gonna say, Mr.
Yeah, I was
Chairman,
gonna say, oh,
wait. I was gonna say, Mr. Chairman, we would be remiss if we did not take this opportunity to thank you and your vision, insight, and just steadfastness, because, clearly, if the public is unaware, you were also named in the lawsuit with the town, with other individuals from the town. And so that was a big risk. Anytime litigation, you have to deal with that. It does not come without stress and strife. And so we thank you for bringing this concept to the residents of West Orange, to this municipality. And we thank you for hanging in there, going through all the things that you went through and seeing it this far to this side. So thank you very much for all that you do. We appreciate you.
I appreciate it. Thank you
That's
so much.
exactly what I was going to say, is that we commend you for even starting this conversation, initiating this for us, and then having the patience and perseverance to stay with it after everything that you went through. So we commend you for that.
Thank you, Councilwoman. I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Thank
So we are moving along. We are timing is good, and we will continue with the agenda. Trying to think if there's anything else from, let's see, downtown redevelopment, PRISM update we have done. As it relates to around town, I'll make one comment. There has been an outreach of other major chains that are looking to come into West Orange. One of those major chains being interest in Trader Joe's, having an idea of looking at space here in West Orange. So we received that phone call last week. Nothing is definite, but they are extremely eager to see if we can find them space that would suit their needs here in West Orange. They want to be close to Main Street or close in that vicinity. It's funny to me that people will their marketing studies and so forth don't matter at this point, and all of a sudden West Orange becomes attractive, as we already knew that it was. So I just would start with there, and then if anybody else has any additional information or anything that they want to share, would be good.
So Jay, I would like to share that I'm trying to formulate this idea of doing an RFQ for Office of Economic Development, though I don't want to call it that. I want to call it a director more of administrative technical assistance. When I was first elected, I thought it was important to have a technical review board that would sit with a new business owner or someone that's willing to invest in town, to meet with all the town officials, people that would have to review their application, to let them know and hold their hand basically where the steps that they needed to get through the planning or zoning process. I don't know what that's called, and it has to do with technical review. It has to do with administrative work. It has to do with being warm and welcoming to the community, and just helping them every step of the way. So a director of marketing, where there's PR involved, a consultant to that fact. So I was actually going to call you and ask you about that and help formulate.
Yeah, I think, Madam Councilwoman, I think it was, as you'll find with everything that is happening with West Orange, not only would it be that position, but I think similar to what Councilwoman Brown was pushing, when you start talking about planners and when you start talking about a real economic development commission, then you have to start thinking about what that entails and what that looks like overall. And there'll be a need for that now, right? Because as you have new business and you have all of this development, you're going to have something as it pertains to day-to-day dealing with this, right? That can't be necessarily voluntary, because it's a lot of work, right? And the objective was to set some type of foundation first to see what it could look like. But once you start getting investment in the town, to your point, we don't want I'll tell you this. I think having failed businesses is worse than having no business at all in a township. That's just my opinion. And so, to your point, I don't want to see failed businesses come online. Even from a standpoint, and why you have the task force in place and so forth for cannabis, because you definitely don't want to see failed cannabis businesses who are not capitalized, because that becomes then an eyesore. So anything to me that is a failed business would be a problem. So I think your recommendation is something that we need to discuss. And I think it's something that we start discussing along with what that economic and development division looks like. It would be a division. It would be somebody that would help them with new businesses and do permitting. It would be somebody who would actually work with a real town planner that people clamor for. I understand why people want a town planner. Now is the time where you can start thinking about having a real town planner, because there's actually investment being made in the township. And so when you have that, every developer is going to need, who we choose to want to work in conjunction with our town, you're going to need a planner in that aspect to work with those developers to basically get egress or anything else that they may need. And so somebody has to deal with them on a regular basis, considering that they're giving us revenues and taxes and investment in our town. And we want to be able to support them in every way that we can. So I concur with you. And then we'll get a chance to talk as well offline, so I can get more in detail of what your thought process is.
Thank you very much, because you're on my list of things to do. So
no problem.
I do have to follow up with that. And it's not just downtown. Here we're talking about our downtown and this exciting film services district, but we have multi-million-dollar investment at Essex Green. There's proposals for the Kmart Plaza. We have Executive Drive, our library. We have senior house coming in at the library. So there are so many things, investments happening.
That's correct.
We have Central Avenue. That came up and it's already 100% occupied. So the Harvard Press, and that building had been abandoned and remediated for over 50 years, or in need of remediation for over 50 years. And here it is done. And they're proposing even more development on Tompkins Street. So it's just, there's a lot going on. Yeah, and it's all investment. And it's all investment. So Yeah, okay, good.
No
Chairman,
problem.
Chairman, if I could just jump in as a follow-up to that conversation.
Sure.
Council President did just say we have a lot of development going on, and it's one of the reasons that I continuously push. Unfortunately, don't have the will from the administration or the support from the council to be able to hire a town planner, because we have so much development going on, and we do have a master plan, and it's got great bones, absolutely has great bones. However, if there's no one in that office in the planning division, whether it's an economic / a developer / planner in that division, there's no one there to make sure that things are getting done the way that they're supposed to be. Are they fitting, what are we moving along next? What's the next goal? And that's something that I got when I met with Paul Greigel the first year I was a councilwoman, because I wanted to understand, he works with many municipalities, and I wanted to find a best practice that he's encountered. And what would that look like for West Orange? And he did say that having someone in the office on a daily basis to make sure that, things are being focused, looked at through the master plan to be able to continue to develop and run those developments, if you will, that it is a good idea to have a town planner. We're one of few municipalities who do not have town planners. The mayor in Hillside, she is a town planner. Her job is that every day. I've had conversations with her because someone connected me to her, but she is also a consultant planner. But they have a full-time planner, even though her business is a consulting one for planning. But it is something that's necessary for us to be able to make sure that all of these investments that we're making will have the right fit for West Orange, as opposed to, different things going on in different places. And, there's a lot that has to be done, but it has to start with, obviously, with all of your efforts that you've done so far with the Economic Development Commission, but a planner is something that's necessary.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right. Do we have any additional updates for around town? Mr. Raymond, anything from the downtown West, downtown? Why am I?
Alliance.
West Orange Alliance.
Thank you.
Alliance.
Thank
So
you.
Nothing in specific, but just to add to Councilwoman McCartney's point about the point person and why it's so important. And that's one of the functions, Meg Brill as the director, liaisons with new businesses. But as we, kind of leapfrog into this new threshold and looking at certain calibers of prospective businesses, it's important to have a more robust, precise game plan for executing and catering to those, more corporate needs. So I think it's very important for us to all have that conversation and strategically figure out how to make that a reality. So I'm 100% in support of that notion.
Yeah, I think we're all on the same page. I think we're all saying the same thing. We're all on the same page, is that now that we have, come to reorganization with the Economic Development Commission, now that Chairman Wayman has brought a tremendous amount of new opportunities into West Orange. And of course, being mindful that he did that on a volunteer capacity. I think we're all in agreement that we do need someone to really look at what that office will look like, and to identify what the parameters of that role and responsibility will be. I think, and I had mentioned to Councilwoman McCartney, if we look at what the roles and responsibilities of the office will be, we can come to a title. But I think the most important thing is just identifying what we want that office to focus on and to look like. And then the title will take care of itself. But again, most communities, especially if there's areas in need of development and that opportunity and potential, they do have an economic development director or an office of economic development.
So Councilwoman, that's exactly where I am. I have already reached out to Montclair and Maplewood, trying to get their job description so that we can compile all of those notes. I wanted a little bit more than what's going on to fit the needs of our community. But I wanted to back up a little bit and thank Ron also for saying that, because it is the work of the Downtown West Orange Alliance and Meg Brill at the helm there that we saw the vacancy rates on Main Street decrease, that the partnership that she now has and exhibits with the business owners on Main Street. I want what she's doing along the Main Street corridor on a more global scale. So that's what we're looking to accomplish.
One more thing I just have to say, and I'd be remiss if I didn't say it. I'm going to call each one of our council people out on this right now, because I'm going to jump off at this point. We have a quorum, and that constitutes an illegal meeting, and we shouldn't all be talking about this. So I was on here because I was invited to discuss cannabis. I would love to stay on, but I am no longer going to do that, seeing as there is a quorum now that Council President McCartney has joined us. So I will bid you all adieu. And if there are any questions, happy to answer them via email. I'm just concerned that there is it'll be perceived as talking.
No,
I appreciate Councilwoman for keeping us, because again, unbeknownst to us, without our intention,
Yes.
it's really, it doesn't matter. We can be called on
Yes.
the legality. So thank you so much again. We appreciate you
Very
coming and
welcome.
talking about cannabis. We appreciate you and all that you've done and will continue to do for West Orange. Thank you.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Wait, before you go, there was a question in the chat on the retail. I don't know if that was answered about.
I answered it. I answered it.
I'm sorry, I missed that. About the micro businesses. Do we have a limit there?
No, I answered it. I think the question is just to confirm micro licenses are not included in the four full scale licenses in West Orange is limited selection too. And I basically told them that's correct. They're separate.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And then we were finalizing our comments around town. So the comments around town, and then if we want to go back up, Mr. Chairman, you did give us a little bit of a scenario about infrastructure, additional support and funds. But if you want to finalize that update, and that will be.
Oh yeah, yes, no problem. Thank you, Councilwoman Women. So the meeting, given the article in which also Congressman Payne basically sent or made comments in reference to cannabis and the participation of minority and social equity, we postponed that actual meeting because that meeting we wanted to get insight from him as it pertains to cannabis in West Orange, but we also wanted to talk about infrastructure. And given the Congressman Payne's time, we wanted to make sure that we could talk about, both of those things simultaneously. So he rescheduled to have that meeting next week. And then I'll be able to have that conversation with him. He has had some brief conversations, or we've had some brief conversations through his aide as it pertains to him being excited about some of the infrastructure possibilities or what we're actually asking for. So in our last conversation, Councilwoman McCartney mentioned that they had a list of some things that in which the town was looking to acquire with some of the infrastructure funds. I can get that from her, or she can send those to me so that we can present those as well. But I have some specific ask as it pertains to around some of the development that's actually going to be online. He wants to know exactly what we have online that can actually be shared, so that when funding is available, it can actually be used, and it be used as projects are breaking ground. So I'm going to, with the help of the council, to look at some ideas of infrastructure of what that, as it pertains to what we need to look at, or what our ask is from the congressman. And we're going to have that conversation next week. So that meeting was postponed based off of us wanting to talk to him, and also having the task force inform me that they also wanted to have that conversation as it pertains to that. We've also had some conversations from the state as it pertains to the economic development chair of the state is going to be looking into cannabis as well, and how they can use some of their funding to help some of these particular businesses that are minority businesses. So that was that. In my conversations over the last 2 weeks, those are the conversations that I've had.
Thank you. All right, that completes our agenda for this evening. I think we can open up for questions from the public. If you will utilize the raise your hand feature, then we can certainly call on the public for questions. And I do see a couple hands raised. Melgilly Valdez, if you will state your name for the record, please, and your address.
It's Melgilly Valdez. Good evening. At Elm Street. So thank you very much for this meeting. It was very informative. My comment is that, if you can just please post on the township website the login information, because it wasn't available right before the meeting. I did search the Economic Commission page and also the calendar, and it wasn't posted on there. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll make sure that gets posted in a timely manner moving forward. Thank you. And thank you for attending.
Thank you, Ms. Valdez.
Do I see any more hands raised? Mr. Fagan, I see your hand.
Thank you, Councilwoman Williams. I have no specific comment this evening. I would just like to make a brief statement. I tuned in this evening to try and stay informed, which ironically, trying to stay informed in the information age can sometimes be difficult. However, I am better informed now, and I just want to say thank you to you and your board colleagues for providing all the information and keeping us up to date. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Megan. I just want to thank Mayor Parisi again and Mr. Chairman for the opportunity to serve and support the Economic Development Commission. Fortunately, the way our township is set up with our different commissions, it gives us an opportunity to dig a little bit deeper outside of our regularly scheduled council meetings to go over some of these topics that are important to our community. The information that we share here will be posted on the township website. We are a little new to this, so unfortunately, we did start late with our recording this evening, as we did for the first meeting. We will get better, we will do better, and I do commit that the next recorded meeting will be the meeting from start to finish. We will post our minutes on the website for the township under the Economic Development Commission site as well. So you will have access to the full minutes that were approved here this evening. But again, we just thank the public for your participation, for your interest in economic development in your town. We welcome any additional comments and support. If you have questions, you can always contact our chairman at john@westorange.org, or you can CC any of your council members at council@westorange.org, and that's council@westorange.org. Mr. Chairman, I think that completes our agenda and public comment. I don't see any additional hands raised. So if you would like, we can adjourn the meeting at 7:22.
I have no problem in adjourning the meeting. Is everyone in agreement?
Yes.
I am.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't think there would be any hesitation. Thank you all again so much for your time and your efforts. Again, Ron, welcome. And if you need any additional information, let's talk offline so we can get a chance to chat.
Thank you, Chairman.
Okay. All right, guys. Thank you again.
Well, good night. Stay
Okay,
safe.
thank you. Good
Well
night.
done, Councilman Williams. Thank you.
Same to you. Thank you. Thank you, West Orange. Good night.
Good night.